Hey guys, so it's John here. Today I'm talking to you about technology in the 1980s. It's almost if during the 80s there was something new coming out every day as far as if it was tech or literature or music or something. There was always something popping out. Hopefully everyone's doing making the best of their time in quarantine and stuff, isolation. I know it sucks, but hopefully if we just follow the rules, we all get through this and we can go back to normal life. So, first I'm going to talk about the Sony Walkman. Sony Walkman was invented in the early 1970s, but didn't really become popular until the 1980s. Sony Walkman was this device that would let people play their cassettes. That a cassette is really a mini VHS tape, but cassettes had you could only have audio on the tape. Cassettes had an A and B side, which let you put 3 or 4 or 5 songs, depends on how long they were, on each side of the tape. So side A had tracks 1 through 4, and side B had tracks 5 through 8 or whatever. Which that was cool. It was. I still have one actually. It's somewhere in my house in Brookhaven, but I don't really want to go look for it. So luckily, as time moved on, like I said, 80s, there was always something new. If we didn't have a chance to get a Sony Walkman to play your cassettes, then maybe you had a CD player. CD players ranged in many shapes and sizes and price ranges. You had a small little one that had AA bass you can put in your pocket, or you had giant ones that fit in rolling racks for large concerts. Um, CDs were better because you could have it kind of you could put larger formats of audio files onto said disk compared to just one depressing little poor quality audio file. And you could write on them and put images and cool crap, whatever. Yeah. And then about like I said, early 1970s, but got bigger and better in the 1980s, where was the VHS tape. VHS tape was this it's a bigger cassette tape really, but it did the kind of the same thing. It housed a magnetic tape that stored audio and video information on it. So it was before the CD actually, kind of. Eh. It was before that. You could record to it. You could play videos off of it. People had them in their homes, offices. They came in different price ranges, different qualities, everything. Everyone owned them sooner or later. They got bigger and better. My family had a few different ones. They all had outboard gear that you could get, like a VHS head cleaner or a VHS rewinder, because you had to rewind the tape before you watched it, which was annoying. You had to spend an extra 5 minutes if you didn't rewind the tape the last time you watched it to now, whatever. But VHS had a few problems as far as the VHS players would eat the tape, so called, or the tape would get destroyed, it would wear out after a lot of use, after you watched the video a lot, and you just kept rewatching, and the player just messed it up. Most of the time they stood up to quite a bit, and then had basic cable to come in, which not many of us really have basic cable now. We have DirecTV or Xfinity or something. Compared to basic cable, only had 5 or 6 channels. My DirecTV package has like 400, and I don't even watch like but 10 of them. Another cool thing with VHS was that you could record what you got on basic cable, as if, say, you were watching a cool documentary on something, you wanted to tape over it. Not tape over, you wanted to record it, you can just put it on blank VHS and tell your VHS player to record it, and you could have it for however long. Another bad thing, I just said it earlier, is that you could tape over things. So let's say you taped over, you recorded a concert that you really wanted to go to that was on TV, but your friend came over and taped over your concert with something that they wanted to see, you can't really get that information back, and it sucks. Now you just have that concert your friend had. It's oh well, but yeah. Um, Next, we're going to be moving into concerts in the 1980s, which that was a interesting time. It kind of got better as the century ended, but in decade, um, Woodstock in the 70s really helped the concert world as far as PA systems, because it says here most concert systems comprised of horizontal. I can't talk today at all. Horizontal clusters of ugly black boxes. So if you get on Facebook or something and see old DJs that have big old PV trap W subs that just look ugh, and sound terrible, but if you're like 12 foot high speakers in the front of the stage, all along the front and over the back, and it sounded god awful. But the original large format PA systems started when Grateful Dead decided to play a concert. It was like, hey, we need a lot of PA, because normally back back in the day, your PA system is like a 100 watt head, while your guitar amp was like 50 watts. You're just like, that's all we got, which that's obviously not going to cover a stadium of screaming fans. So the only way to really hear your band that you wanted to hear was to get a close-up spot to the stage, which was nearly impossible. Excuse me. My microphones were also not great back then. So yeah, but Grateful Dead had this giant wall of sound, as they call it, that they had a giant wall of speakers behind the performers projecting sound out, which kind of wasn't a great idea because you have the speakers behind, well, actually, speakers in front of the microphone, which was just a giant feedback loop if you think about it, which I'm sure that was not great. They, I was reading that they tried to conquer it with some weird physics stuff, but still, feedback is there. Um, Woodstock gave us floor wedges, which kind of kind of molded the idea for floor wedges, because it was like they had a speaker facing them on the stage so they could hear indoors what we call side fills, which are speakers on the side of the stage filling in the air and letting you hear what your bandmates are playing. Um, a good rule of thumb: PA should be at least 4 times the scale of instruments and amps to be effective. So if you have a large rock band, you can't just pull up with some little DJ rig and be like, yeah, I'm gonna kick some butt. No, it's not gonna. You're gonna blow everything up in the first 10 seconds. Um, by the 80s slash the end of the decade, they were moving more towards the more of suspending the speakers on the stage, which I'm sure back then was not anywhere close to OSHA safe or OSHA standards. It was probably ungodly, not safe. But that freed up a lot of stage space, which bands were like, oh my gosh, we have a lot of space here. But also kind of messed with the reverb and delay due to the time and space. And then you get into positioning and angling and all that stuff. And I'm sure it was hella out of phase, but back then, you went to see a concert to see your favorite artist perform, not to really tweak the PA system, unless you're like me. It happens. But let's see, where else? Where else was I at? Yes, Titus explains how the speaker cabinets were designed. Back then, it's more of a three-way trap box. It's hard to explain. It's kind of a three-way speaker system, high, mid, low, in a box that all comes through at one focal point, compared to every every cabinet or speaker has its own purpose, which they kind of do now. But trap boxes were of the '80s. Uh, Stacks and racks, that's what we call them in the production world. When you roll into a show of racks of amps, and then you just stack up the PA, and bam, that's the easy shows. That's what they used to do in the '80s. Um, the '80s also became a era of entrepreneurial greed. Many people thought they knew what they were doing. They had no idea. Gear was, if someone professionally bought this gear and used it, then apparently it's good. Not necessarily. It says here, brand names became markedly infected, which basically was saying, hey, this cable has magical power. Even today, I don't really think a cable has a magical power of making your audio sound good. In the words of Jeff, you can't polish a turd. It's really hard and not worth it. Next, we're going to be moving into the recording technology part of this, which analog. Um, but gear was getting cheaper while maintaining both the build and sound quality. Unfortunately, like today, everything was not made in China. It was made here or close to here because people want to start recording at home. Not saying they want to have the same equipment as they were in the real, professional world, because they could afford giant analog tape recorders that took up the whole room, or giant outboard delay mods and stuff. Yeah, no. You still had to have a lot of analog gear to do audio because you had to have something for a preamp, had to have something for a delay, a reverb, a compressor, all that other stuff, and then you had to somehow record it to the tape. Luckily, they had more than eight channels now. Had 16, then you could just daisy chain them all together and get however many channels. But the likelihood of a finding 3 16 channel tape recorders in the same building that worked was rough. Also, CDs became the standard over time because it was a lot easier to record to them, and you can get a better sound quality, and they were easier to copy and make. Um, the '80s started a new musical field. So is my next slide. Replacement of traditional instruments and synthesized sequential portion of the sound was the very core of the '80s, and real recorded performances were replaced by MIDI controlled. MIDI was invented in the '80s and widely used. If you listen to any '80s track, it's heavy synth and MIDI and awesomeness. Um, a lot of stuff started to leave in the late '80s to get ready for CD, and now everything's digital. But some people still like analog. Hopefully, you'll be able to do what you want on both platforms. Um, Next, instruments, keyboards mainly. A lot of analog synths. I do recommend taking the MIDI and synth class in August with Clifton. It's awesome. You learn a good bit about synths and synthesis. Um, let's see. Keyboard and drums took a quantum leap in capability, paralleled advances to similar recording techniques. That's basically saying instead of the big shots having these giant synths, now you, a normal American homeowner, can get a mini Moog synthesizer. That doesn't take up an entire room in your house, so you don't need to take out a fourth mortgage on your house to pay for it. Saying MIDI was invented. MIDI is the musical instrument digital interface, which allowed us to sync together different instruments that had MIDI involved in it. So you could press one key on one of your keyboards, and that sent data to other keyboards to play that same note, just in different. Each keyboard had a different sound, so you can get a layered sound. Also, of poly and monophonic stuff. Instead of pressing one note to get a sound, you can play a whole chord and get that same sound. MIDI kind of helped with that. A lot of the keyboards from back then you cannot get. We have a few in the studio that I've ran upon well, I would say other day, but it was a while. And it was like, oh my gosh, we have a DX7 with cartridges. Whoa, a lot of nice, thick, fat synths you can't really get anymore. If you have one, don't throw it out. Uh, the Lindrum was a computer sample drum kit thingy. They're kind of cool. That you can pre-record or use the built-in sounds to do MIDI sequences and stuff. You've probably seen those little hexagonal square drums thingies, Simmons SDS5. If you SpongeBob halftime show, that was a drum set Patrick was playing. Sounds like the 80s gated drums and everything else in the 80s. Um, Last slide is home stereos, because sometimes you had friends over and the TV, you don't want to turn TV on, you only had like 2 channels. So, and you could have your own concert at home. Home stereos were kind of a family. It's like going into the living room seeing a giant 80-inch TV now. It's like, oh, that's a nice stereo. So all came in different shapes, sizes, and forms. First tape machine was practical for home use. Was a real to real, but that was your really fancy, high up, classy people that could afford a reel to reel, while normal blue collar Americans probably couldn't afford a reel to reel, but they could afford a nice home stereo. A lot of good brand names in home stereo that are still around today. A lot of good names in car audio that was started in the 80s, but car audio in the 80s was kind of got better in the 90s. Younger people started to gravitate towards the boombox because it was mobile. I actually had a boombox. I broke it on accident. I'm really upset. The thing kind of slapped though. Also, I had a home stereo, but I think it got wet or something. I don't know. But yeah, home stereos had CD players, FM radios, sometimes reel to reel stuff, maybe a phono or auxiliary input. Not for what we use aux input for now, but yeah. Um, Says Bose figured out how to make great home stereos, which they did with their transmission line stuff. That's why Bose sounds awesomely awesome sometimes. I have a Bose soundbar, but Rupert has a Bose Bluetooth speaker, and those small that have nice, fat, punchy bass. But yeah, um, that's it. I hope everyone at least learned something. I hope I tried. But yeah, hopefully I shall see y'all on the other